Need a fresh way to support your local farmers? Hey guys, welcome back to At the Table. Sydney here, and I'm joined by Haley Johnson from AJ Family Farms. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
So we're going to talk a little bit about, of course, we're in our local foods series. So we're going to talk a little bit. I'm so glad to actually have somebody who does farming to come and speak with us on just all things farm related. So to start off, just tell me a little bit about like how your farm got started and what y'all kind of focus on at your farm.
Yeah, so at our farm, AJ Family Farm, we're actually down in Garland, North Carolina. And what we mainly do is beef, pork, and chicken. So back in 2011, my husband started, he was fresh out of North Carolina State University. He started just doing pastured pork. And we opened a farmer's market just kind of on that principle, and it just kind of took off from there. We've expanded ever since.
That's awesome. So what do y'all, you said pasture is what y'all focus on?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's pretty small scale?
Oh yes, absolutely. Small scale and just basically enough to kind of keep our farmer's market and the couple extension farmer's markets that we do full for the season.
Okay, great. So how do you just help to, which obviously you do a lot of farmers markets, but in terms of reaching us as consumers, like what are different ways that y'all help to market your farm and things like that?
Yeah, so we market in a variety of ways. We always try to, when we think about how we're going to expand, be very community focused. So we do social media marketing. We have Instagram and Facebook, and we post the various items that'll be available there. We use the Visit NC Farms app, which is a huge tool for our local farmers, and specifically we use it to send out notifications to kind of let the consumers and the public know what is in season and is going to be available at the market. And then we also participate in various farmers markets like the Harold's Farmers Market. And of course we have our full-time farmers market in Garland, just to continue to talk to those customers and to the public and let them know, or let us know kind of what they're looking for and what they want to make in their kitchen.
Yeah, that's great. So definitely, I love that you guys utilize the Visit NC Farms app, and that's something that it is a free app that you can download. So you don't have to pay for it, and it shows you exactly where y'all are located, right? And yes. I think we can call you guys from, it yes. shows your phone number and all that stuff. So you can go right to AJ Family Farms and purchase some fresh, local, good meats for you. So also kind of along those same lines, what are things that we can help the farmer? So as consumers, like what are different ways that we can help to support you guys and just really help the farmer? Because sometimes, if we're just going to the grocery store all the time, we don't tend to really be able to have that one-on-one connection as if we were to go to a farmer's market. Yeah, absolutely. So that one-on-one connection is the main thing that you can do to help the farmer. Just having those conversations with your local farmers, letting them kind of educate you, if you will, discuss with you different things that they do on their farm, some of the new practices. That is a huge help for a lot of our local farmers, just to kind of get their story out there, so they, because it kind of travels by word of mouth. Another thing that really is good for the public to be able to help the farmers is to just stop in. When you see a local vendor farmer market set up, stop in, check out, see what's going on. Because a lot of those farmers that are set up at those vendor events are our younger farmers. They're the ones trying to figure out where they want to be within the ag community and what they can do to serve their community through, food resources and value-added products. So that's a huge thing. And lastly, follow them on social media. I know that we're not all big fans of every social media outlet out there, but in that
in that space where we're able to get the newest information out to our consumers much more quickly.
And I think a lot, I mean, think about our generation and, even my parents are also big into social media. So a lot of us who are shopping for food, and a lot of us have to shop, right? We have to eat. So a lot of us are utilizing social media to find out about different places that we can shop. Mm-hmm. So I think that's great that y'all have a presence there. I think sometimes we forget how great a social media can be as a tool to connect the two of us. So I love that. Is there anything else that you kind of want us to know about farming and what y'all kind of focus on?
Yeah, well, so like I said, we pretty much covered it all, but just making sure that you have those conversations with your local farmers so that you know what's available right there in your community. And they can also kind of let you know, hey, we're seeing a trend of this product is more popular this year, or we're seeing the weather affect it in this kind of way. So those are just really good resources to kind of know what present and future challenges your community may be facing, because your farmers kind of are on the front lines of that.
Yeah, and we don't even see that side of it. We're just trying to get some good food. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Haley. And she also brought us some really great beef that we are going to be using in, we have a cabbage roll casserole dish we're going to be making. We're going to be using AJ Family Farm beef. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you guys back shortly.
Introducing the Star Communications app. All the tools you need in one convenient location. You can access Watch TV everywhere. Check local channel lineup. Check your Star email. View and pay your Star bill. Report troubles. Use your Star security app. Check your home voicemail. Sign up for CrowdFiber. Check your Wi-Fi speed. The list keeps going and going. Download for free from the App Store or Google Play.
Hey guys, welcome back. So we've kind of got all set up for what we're going to be cooking today. I mentioned we're doing that cabbage roll casserole, and Haley gave us this really delicious looking beef that we can use. We're going to use about half of this in our recipe. So it just calls for half a pound of ground beef. So I'm going to go ahead and start on our garlic. We're going to use garlic and onion to help flavor our beef. And we'll go ahead and add that all in together. So as it's cooking, it will begin to kind of season our meat. So I'm just going to do a little bit of olive oil in our pan. And then this little piece of garlic has a bad spot, so we'll just discard that. So you never have to just completely get rid of something because it's got a little spot on it. You can just cut that spot off and go for it. Unless it's too deep within whatever you're using, whatever produce you're using, that it won't work. So just using my knife here, we're just gonna rock back and forth and try to get our garlic chopped up into those smaller pieces. Now we mentioned, Haley talked a lot about where you can buy some of the tasty meats from her local farm, but you can also find local stuff in your grocery stores as well. So I know that Carly C's, Piggly Wiggly, IGA, whatever it might be closest to you, they have a lot of local foods, and you can check. Sometimes they'll have it listed as to where it comes from. Some of the other grocery stores, Food Lion has a little sign typically by their produce that will say local. I have not seen where it's listed exactly what farm it came from, but I know some of the grocery stores like Harris Teeter will actually have the name of the family farm. They may even have exactly what city it's in. So if it's not necessarily, of course we talked about our last session that local doesn't necessarily mean it has to be something grown right here in your county or your community. It could be possibly anywhere in North Carolina or even beyond that. So something that maybe we don't grow, but there is something grown in the Southeast right next door to us that's not too far. So local is defined by all different types of things. We all have different definitions. but that is one way that you can find local foods and identify them when you're shopping in the grocery store if you're not actively going to a farmer's market or a farm stand or somebody's storefront. So I've put our garlic in our pan and we're just letting that sizzle up a little bit to help flavor our oil. So I'm going to use half of this. We'll go ahead and kind of sit that in the garlic so that it starts to get really nice and flavorful. Set that to the side. So up next we've got our onion. And this is a pretty big onion. Our recipe calls for the whole thing. This is another recipe from the My Plate kitchen. We're trying that TikTok trick again. I've had it work 50-50. So far, I've tried it twice and it's worked once, didn't work the other times. We'll see what happens this time. Whatever will work to help me not cry is key. So, also when we are talking about utilizing some of those local foods, you can definitely look at different recipes. You can look at, especially on that My Plate mixing, the My Plate kitchen, you can search for specific recipes utilizing those local foods. So some other places, just looking online or utilizing whatever you have in place of other things in your recipe. So let's say that it called for regular onions and instead you want to use those green onions. It calls for ground chicken and you just got a great deal on some ground beef or whatever the case may be. Trying to use those local foods in any of your recipes, substituting them for other things, or specifically searching for recipes based off of that, that food. So definitely could go that route as well to help utilize those yummy local foods. So I'll actually go ahead and we'll finish this onion. We'll take a quick break and then we'll finish this onion while we're on break, and I'll see you guys back to finish up our meat.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
All right, guys, so we almost have our beef and our onions and garlic all cooked. There's not really a ton of grease in this for me to need to drain it, but if you were using a more fattier ground beef, then you would definitely want to drain this really well. But we're gonna transfer this over actually to a pot. I've got this big old pot here. I'm gonna turn it off for now because we're gonna be adding other stuff to it. So I'm gonna transfer all this. That way I can fit all of my stuff in there. We'll throw this in the sink back here. So we're gonna start adding some more ingredients. So what we have next is some water and tomato sauce. So we have 1 1/2 cups of water. And then we also have 1 1/2 cups of tomato sauce. So I've got canned tomato sauce. I could not find the no salt added, but it's still it's about mediocre in terms of our sodium. I'm gonna use about 1 1/2 of these. And then we also are gonna add, so our recipe calls for a can of diced tomatoes, and Instead, we are just gonna use a fresh tomato because they are in season. So I'm gonna cut off some of these little pieces. And what I like to do when I'm using a fresh tomato is kind of cut around that core and discard it. And then I usually cut that bottom, around the bottom little part, so that I'm using as much of the tomato as possible and having less food waste. That is our goal. We want to be making sure we get our money's worth in what we're eating and we're not throwing our money away. So similar to what I'm doing here, if you do have a recipe that maybe calls for canned foods that you do not have that you have access to the fresh and you want to substitute, that is a great way to utilize, again, those fresh local foods as well. And next time we're going to talk all about how you can store those foods. So let's say you have an excess amount of tomatoes or whatever produce you maybe are growing yourself or you've been gifted or you've purchased. If you wanted to put some of that away, we'll talk a little bit about that next time. So, and I mentioned earlier in our last episode about use that NC 10% campaign. And so kind of going right along with where you can purchase those fresh local foods and how to access those fresh local foods, where you can find them, as Haley mentioned, the market or any of those other places. There is something called the NC 10% campaign, and this is encouraging at least 10% of your food dollars to be spent on those local foods. So a great way to do that is to check for that seasonality, see what is in season, see what you can make. When you are planning your meals, checking to see what is available right now. So that will help you in terms of your planning. So in speaking of that, we're going to be using cabbage today because cabbage is very much in season right now. It's very affordable. When you get into your cabbage, you'll see this big core. We do want to avoid that part, but we can utilize the rest of the cabbage. So what I like to do is kind of just cut around that. And this, like I said, is a cabbage roll casserole. So I'm kind of going to remove any of those outer leaves that don't look too great. But we're just going to cut this into chunks. Now, if you wanted to use like shredded or you wanted to shred it yourself, you could. It's just going to be a little bit different in terms of what you're getting with your recipe here. So I'm going to add that to our pot. You want about a small to a medium head of cabbage. So this is just another really good savory recipe that has lots of yummy, tasty vegetables. As we've talked about, definitely by using those local foods, focusing on some of those local foods, you can begin to incorporate more of those fruits and vegetables. So I'm just going to cut around again, kind of work my way slowly around that center core. And then just chop it up. So this is just a rough chop. If you do struggle with maybe arthritis or you have a little bit issues with chopping up something this large that might take a little bit more force, you could absolutely use a food processor if that's easier. So I'm going to finish chopping up our cabbage, get it in our pot, and I'll see you back in just 1 second.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping home secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
All right, so our cabbage is all chopped up. I went ahead and threw it in our pot, and it's already began to cook down a good bit. So this is why you do want a decent sized pot for this recipe, because you do have, especially if you've got on the larger side of a larger size cabbage, you might need a little bit of extra room. But it will begin to wilt down anyway, so you'll have a little bit of extra room as it begins to wilt. So what we have next is some rice, and we're using that brown rice. We're just gonna do 1/4 cup of this. So actually I'm gonna do 1/2 cup because we've got a pretty good amount of stuff in this one, and that's still not a whole lot of rice added. So we're just gonna mix that in and kind of let it sit and simmer for about 5 minutes. It's instant rice, so if you use that instant rice, it will cook a lot more quickly. If you don't have instant rice and you wanna cook that separately, you absolutely could and just add it in to heat it up. Or you could use leftover rice in this case. So lots of different options of how you can incorporate that. But that helps to make this a full meal. So we've got our whole grains, we've got our leaner beef. We also have lots and lots of cabbage, so lots of vegetables in this one. So we've got a full My Plate meal, and you could even top it with a little bit of cheese when you get done. I think some Parmesan would be really good on this, or mozzarella. We haven't seasoned this at all, so I am gonna add just a little bit of salt and pepper to our pot here. You could definitely leave this out, let people season it at the table if you'd like. But I just felt like it needed a little something. Could use other seasonings as well that you enjoy in your home. So very quick, easy. Obviously we didn't have a ton of mess. You have a cutting board, a knife, and your pot. You could even saute your meat in this big pot, and then instead of having a saute pan plus a pot to clean. So super simple. And a great way to incorporate all those healthy foods from our My Plate that are also local. So in thinking about what we're gonna make, maybe for the week or just for the next couple of days, you want to, like I've mentioned earlier, to include the seasonality of foods. So remember the NC 10% campaign website? You can download exactly what they are gonna be, what we are gonna have in season for the current month that we're in. So we're approaching September. We might not actually be in September by the time you see this video, because it could be later on in the week. So this is just to give you an idea of some different things that are coming up that are in season. And I'm excited about September because that's when we start to see some of those yummy, savory vegetables coming into the stores, into the farmers markets. So we have things like apples, bok choy, Brussels, cabbage will still be in season for the whole month, carrots, cucumbers, figs, garlic, grapes, green beans, hot peppers, leafy greens, peaches, peanuts, pears, plums, pumpkins, raspberries, rutabaga, spring onions, squash, sweet potatoes, and tomatoes. So those will all be in season for the month of September. Typically October or November is when we start to get into those more savory root vegetables that become very popular. So if you're into the whole soups and stews or roasted vegetables, I love roasted vegetables with butternut squash or things like that. Those will be coming up in our cooler fall months. And that is something I look forward to. That's one thing too, when you're thinking about seasonality, think about the flavors that we have during the different seasons of the year. So when we have spring, we're starting to get some of those, we still have spinach, we're starting to get some of those berries and things in, but it's summer, we get a lot of those really light fruits and vegetables. Because it's so warm outside, it's like some of those lighter foods tend to what we gravitate towards. Things like watermelon that's gonna help you to be refreshed. Again, berries are going to be in season. And then as we start to approach winter and fall, we start to get more of those savory, hearty foods. So I just love thinking about the different times of the year and what is going to be in season that I can really gravitate towards and enjoy. And I don't get it all year long, right? So keep some of that stuff in mind. Next time we will talk about how you could possibly get some of those foods all year long. And hopefully you guys will try this recipe. Great way to utilize cabbage because we get a lot of it. And we'll show you guys what it looks like all in our bowl when we get finished. So I hope y'all have a great day. We will see you guys next time at the table.